Welcome to Background Brain. Here, you can learn anywhere, anytime. If you find this video meaningful, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps this channel continue to grow, as you will with this video. Today's topic is philosophy, the study of wisdom, knowledge, and existence. Philosophy is not only about abstract speculation, it is about the fundamental questions that shape how we live. What is truth? What is justice? What is the good life? Every culture has asked these questions, and through them, built systems of thought, religion, politics, and science. In this video, we will explore philosophy as both a history of ideas and a practical tool. We will examine how early thinkers moved from myth to reason, how different cultures approached ethics and meaning, how modern philosophers wrestled with freedom, morality, and truth, and how philosophy continues to influence science, politics, and even technology today. So, let us begin at the beginning. What exactly is philosophy? Foundations of philosophy. What is philosophy? The love of wisdom. The word philosophy comes from the Greek philo, love, and sophia, wisdom. It means, literally, the love of wisdom. Unlike science, which often investigates how things work, or religion, which may give authoritative answers, philosophy focuses on asking and refining the most basic questions about reality, knowledge, and values. Philosophy has three central branches. Metaphysics asks, what is real? Epistemology asks, how do we know what we know? Ethics asks, what is the right way to live? Other branches include logic, aesthetics, and political philosophy. Practicing philosophy is not about memorizing doctrines. It is about developing critical thinking, examining assumptions, and seeking consistency in beliefs. A philosopher does not accept ideas simply because they are traditional or comforting. Instead, they test them through reason, argument, and reflection. The value of philosophy lies in its universality. It shapes science by clarifying methods, it shapes politics by defining justice, and it shapes personal life by asking what matters most. In short, philosophy is not a set of final answers. It is a lifelong method of inquiry. The birth of philosophy. From myth to reason in ancient Greece. For much of human history, natural events were explained through myth. Thunder was the anger of Zeus, the sea was ruled by Poseidon, and the seasons were tied to the story of Persephone. These myths gave meaning, but they did not seek rational explanations. In the 6th century BCE, in the Greek city of Miletus, something new emerged, an attempt to explain the world using reason rather than myth. The earliest philosophers, called the pre-Socratics, asked, what is the fundamental substance of reality? Thales proposed that everything was ultimately water. Anaximander argued for a boundless, infinite substance he called the apeiron. Heraclitus suggested that change itself, symbolized by fire, was the essence of reality. Parmenides, by contrast, claimed that change was an illusion, and that true reality was unchanging and eternal. These debates marked a turning point. Instead of accepting traditional stories, philosophers searched for natural principles, patterns, and causes. This shift from mythos, myth, to logos, reason, laid the foundation not only for philosophy, but also for science, politics, and rational inquiry as a whole. It was here, in ancient Greece, that philosophy truly began, with the courage to replace myth with thought. Socratic Method. asking questions to find truth. Socrates, who lived in Athens in the 5th century BCE, transformed philosophy from speculation about the cosmos to a direct examination of human life. He believed the greatest task was to know thyself. But rather than lecturing or presenting doctrines, Socrates developed a unique method of inquiry, what we now call the Socratic Method. At its core, the method is dialogue. Socrates would ask someone to define a concept, for example, what is justice, or what is courage? Once the person offered an answer, Socrates would test it with precise questions. Does this definition apply in every case? What if the situation is different? Could it lead to contradictions? Through this process, called elenchus, refutation, he revealed weaknesses in the argument. But his purpose was not to humiliate. It was to guide his conversation partner toward deeper clarity. Socrates compared himself to a midwife of ideas, helping others give birth to their own understanding. The Socratic method teaches 3 lessons. First, that many of our beliefs rest on shaky foundations. Second, that careful reasoning can expose and improve them. And third, that wisdom begins not in certainty, but in recognizing our own ignorance. This style of questioning remains alive today, in classrooms, law courts, and philosophy itself. Plato's Cave: Shadows and Reality. One of the most famous stories in philosophy is Plato's allegory of the cave, found in his work The Republic. It is a powerful metaphor for ignorance, knowledge, and enlightenment. Plato asks us to imagine prisoners chained inside a dark cave since birth. They face a wall and can see only shadows cast by objects behind them. To the prisoners, these shadows are reality itself. They know nothing else. Now imagine one prisoner is freed. At first, he is blinded by the light of the fire, then by the sunlight outside the cave. Slowly, he realizes the truth. The shadows were mere illusions, and the real world exists beyond them. If he returns to the cave and tries to explain this to the others, they would likely reject him, even ridicule or attack him, because the shadows are all they have ever known. For Plato, the cave symbolizes ordinary human perception. Most people see only appearances, shadows of truth. The journey out of the cave represents education and philosophy, turning the mind toward reality, toward the forms, especially the ultimate form, the good. The allegory teaches that seeking truth requires effort, courage, and the willingness to leave comfortable illusions behind. Aristotle's 4 causes: why things exist. Aristotle, student of Plato, approached philosophy with a deep interest in how and why things exist. To explain this, he developed the theory of the 4 causes, a framework for understanding any object or process. The first is the material cause, what something is made of. For example, the material cause of a statue is marble or bronze. The second is the formal cause, the shape, pattern, or design that makes a thing what it is. The form of the statue is the figure it represents. The third is the efficient cause, the agent or process that brings it into being. In the case of the statue, this is the sculptor who carves it. Finally, the final cause, the purpose or function. For Aristotle, this is the most important. The final cause of a statue might be to honor a god or commemorate a person. Aristotle believed that understanding something requires all 4 explanations together. This framework applied not only to physical objects, but to nature, biology, and human life. For example, the final cause of a seed is to grow into a tree. His theory reminds us that to truly understand anything, we must look at matter, form, process, and purpose as a complete whole. Logic, the structure of reason. Logic is the study of correct reasoning, the rules that make arguments valid. While people have always argued, it was Aristotle who first systematized logic in the 4th century BCE, creating a toolkit for distinguishing sound arguments from flawed ones. The most famous example is the syllogism. It has 2 premises and a conclusion. All humans are mortal. Socrates is a human. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. The power of logic is that if the premises are true and the reasoning is valid, the conclusion must also be true. This prevents confusion between persuasive rhetoric and genuine truth. Over time, logic expanded. Medieval philosophers refined it, and in the 19th and 20th centuries, mathematicians like George Boole and Gottlob Frege developed symbolic logic, using precise symbols to express arguments. This laid the foundation for computer science, where logical operations run every program and digital circuit. Logic matters because it disciplines the mind. It forces us to spot contradictions, clarify definitions, and build coherent arguments. Without it, philosophy, and indeed science, collapses into opinion. With it, we gain a reliable structure for truth-seeking. The Stoics: virtue, control, and acceptance. Stoicism was a school of philosophy founded in Athens by Zeno of Citium in the 3rd century BCE. It taught that the path to a good life lies not in chasing wealth, power, or pleasure, but in cultivating virtue and learning to live in accordance with nature. The Stoics believed that while we cannot control external events, such as fortune, reputation, or even our health, we can always control our own judgments, our choices, and our responses. This distinction became central to their philosophy. Focus only on what lies within your control, and you will remain steady no matter what storms arrive from the outside world. Think of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, who wrote in his private notes that life's difficulties are not obstacles, but opportunities to practice patience, justice, and courage. Or Epictetus, once a slave, who taught that no one can truly harm you unless they corrupt your character. The Stoic life, then, is not one of cold indifference, but of resilience and inner freedom. By mastering our desires and fears, we gain the strength to act justly, the clarity to remain calm under pressure, and the wisdom to live each day as if it were a gift. Epicureanism: the pursuit of happiness through simplicity. Epicureanism was founded in Athens by the philosopher Epicurus around the 4th century BCE. To many, the word Epicurean suggests indulgence in fine food and pleasure, but the original teaching was much more refined and far more practical. Epicurus taught that the highest good is ataraxia, a state of peace and freedom from fear, and aponia, the absence of physical pain. He argued that true pleasure isn't found in constant luxury, but in simplicity. A piece of bread, a glass of water, and the company of friends can bring greater joy than endless feasts, so long as the mind is free from anxiety. He also challenged the greatest fears of his age: fear of the gods and fear of death. To Epicurus, the gods, if they exist, are indifferent to human affairs, and death is nothing to us. For when we are, death is not, and when death comes, we are not. The Epicurean life is one of moderation, friendship, and the pursuit of knowledge. It asks us to clear away unnecessary desires, live simply, and cultivate gratitude. For in simplicity, we find the deepest and most lasting form of pleasure. Skepticism. Can we ever know anything? Skepticism is a philosophical approach that questions the possibility of certain knowledge. Its roots can be traced to ancient Greece, with thinkers such as Pyrrho and later the academic skeptics, who asked whether humans can ever know anything with absolute certainty. Skeptics do not deny reality outright, but they examine our claims to knowledge carefully. For example, they ask, how do we know that our senses are reliable? How can we be sure that what we perceive matches reality? Even the most logical arguments can be challenged. This method of doubt isn't meant to lead to paralysis, but to intellectual humility. By recognizing the limits of our knowledge, we can avoid dogmatism and open ourselves to continual inquiry. Later, philosophers such as David Hume applied skepticism to reason and causation, showing that many of our assumptions, like cause and effect, are based on habit rather than certainty. Skepticism teaches that knowledge is a process, not a possession. It encourages careful questioning, critical thinking, and the understanding that certainty is rare, while reasoned judgment is valuable. In this way, it provides a foundation for both philosophy and science. Cynicism. Living according to nature. Cynicism is a philosophical movement that emerged in ancient Greece, most famously associated with Diogenes of Sinope. Its central idea is simple. A good life comes from living in accordance with nature and rejecting unnecessary social conventions, wealth, and material desires. The Cynics believed that society often teaches people to pursue false goods, fame, luxury, and power, which distract from virtue and self-sufficiency. By stripping away these distractions, an individual can achieve freedom, contentment, and moral clarity. Diogenes famously lived in a large ceramic jar and carried minimal possessions, demonstrating that happiness does not depend on wealth or comfort. Cynicism is closely linked to Stoicism, which would adopt its focus on self-control and virtue, though Stoicism placed greater emphasis on reason and ethics. The Cynic's practice is radical. It challenges the assumptions of society, exposes hypocrisy, and emphasizes personal integrity over public approval. In modern terms, Cynicism asks a critical question: which of our desires are truly necessary and which are imposed by society? By reflecting on this, we learn to live more deliberately, more freely, and closer to what nature intended. Eastern traditions, Confucian Harmony, ethics of relationships. Confucianism, founded by Confucius in the 6th to 5th century BCE China, is a philosophy centered on ethics, social harmony, and proper conduct. Its primary focus is not abstract speculation, but the cultivation of virtue within human relationships. At the heart of Confucian thought is the concept of Ren, often translated as humaneness or benevolence. Ren represents empathy, kindness, and moral integrity in interactions with others. Another key concept is Li, meaning ritual, propriety, or appropriate behavior, which structures how individuals act in families, communities, and government. Confucius emphasized that ethical behavior begins at home. Respect for parents, filial piety, leads to respect for society. Leaders, too, must act virtuously, setting examples rather than ruling by fear or force. Harmony arises not through laws alone, but through cultivation of character and adherence to moral principles. In essence, Confucianism teaches that the quality of society depends on the quality of relationships and personal virtue. By practicing respect, empathy, and proper conduct, one contributes to social order and fosters a world where individuals can flourish together. Taoism, the flow of the Tao. Taoism, attributed to Laozi in the 6th to 4th century B.C.E. China, is a philosophy and way of life focused on living in harmony with the natural order, or the Tao, often translated as the way. The Tao is the fundamental principle underlying the universe, guiding the flow of nature, life, and existence itself. Unlike philosophies that rely on rigid rules or moral codes, Taoism emphasizes Wu Wei, meaning non-action or effortless action. This does not imply laziness, but acting in alignment with the natural flow, avoiding unnecessary force, struggle, or resistance. By observing the rhythms of nature and responding with balance, one achieves harmony with life and the world around them. Taoism also values simplicity, humility, and flexibility. The Taoist seeks to let go of rigid desires, ego-driven ambitions, and artificial distinctions, cultivating instead a sense of ease, presence, and attunement to the cycles of existence. In practice, Taoism encourages mindfulness of the world, the body, and one's actions, emphasizing that wisdom comes from observing and participating in the natural order rather than imposing control over it. Living in accordance with the Tao allows one to move gracefully through life, adapting to change and finding peace in the flow of the universe. Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths. Buddhism, founded by Siddhartha Gautama in the 5th to 4th century B.C.E. India, begins with a careful observation of human suffering. The core of the teaching is encapsulated in the Four Noble Truths, which form the foundation of Buddhist philosophy. The first truth is dukkha, often translated as suffering, dissatisfaction, or impermanence. Life, by its nature, includes discomfort, loss, and change. The second truth identifies the cause of suffering, tanha, or craving and attachment. Desire for pleasure, permanence, or control leads inevitably to frustration, since the world is constantly changing. The third truth offers hope. Suffering can be overcome. By reducing attachment and desire, one can achieve nirvana, a state of liberation, peace, and freedom from the cycle of birth and death. The fourth truth is the path, the Noble Eightfold Path. This practical guide outlines ethical conduct, mental discipline, and wisdom, including right speech, right action, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Buddhism, therefore, is not merely a belief system, but a method for understanding life and transforming the mind. It teaches that by observing reality clearly and reducing attachment, one can live with greater clarity, compassion, and equanimity. Zen, direct experience and mindfulness. Zen is a school of Buddhism that developed in China as Chan and later spread to Japan as Zen. Its focus is not on scripture or intellectual study, but on direct experience and the cultivation of mindfulness. Central to Zen is the practice of zazen, or seated meditation. Through disciplined attention to breath and posture, practitioners observe their thoughts without attachment, cultivating clarity and presence. This practice teaches that understanding arises from direct experience, not from abstract reasoning alone. Zen also emphasizes satori, moments of sudden insight or awakening. These are not obtained through study or argument, but through attentive engagement with the present moment, observing life as it is, fully and without distraction. Koan's paradoxical questions or statements are often used in Zen to challenge habitual thinking and trigger insight. For example, a student might be asked, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" Such questions push the mind beyond ordinary logic, encouraging direct perception. In essence, Zen philosophy teaches that reality is best understood through immediate experience, and that peace, clarity, and wisdom come from mindfulness, simplicity, and presence. Hindu philosophy, Dharma and Karma. Hindu philosophy, with roots stretching back thousands of years, explores the nature of reality, ethics, and the human soul. Two central concepts are Dharma and Karma. Dharma refers to duty, righteousness, or the moral order. It is the principle that guides right action in accordance with one's role in life, society, and the cosmos. Acting in harmony with Dharma supports balance and order, both within oneself and in the larger world. Karma is the principle of cause and effect applied to actions. Every action, whether thought, word, or deed, produces consequences that shape future experiences. Positive actions generate beneficial outcomes, while harmful actions lead to difficulties. This is not punishment, but the natural unfolding of ethical consequences. Hindu philosophy emphasizes that understanding one's dharma and acting with awareness of karma leads to spiritual growth and liberation, or moksha, freedom from the cycle of birth and rebirth. In practice, this philosophy encourages mindful living, performing duties responsibly, cultivating virtue, and understanding that personal choices have lasting effects. It offers a framework for ethical and spiritual development, connecting individual action to the order of the universe. Jainism, non-violence as a cosmic principle. Jainism, an ancient Indian philosophy and religion, places ahimsa, or non-violence, at the very center of its worldview. For Jains, non-violence is not only an ethical guideline, but a cosmic principle that governs the entire universe. Ahimsa means avoiding harm in thought, word, and deed, not just toward humans, but toward all living beings. Even the smallest creatures are considered worthy of respect and protection. This has led to practices such as vegetarianism, careful attention when walking to avoid stepping on insects, and deep reverence for life in all its forms. Underlying this is the belief in the eternal soul, or jiva, present in every living being. Actions that harm others accumulate negative karma, which binds the soul to the cycle of rebirth. By practicing strict non-violence, truthfulness, and self-discipline, Jains aim to purify the soul and ultimately achieve liberation, or moksha. Jain philosophy teaches that true strength lies not in domination, but in restraint and compassion. In honoring the lives of others, one cultivates inner purity and moves closer to freedom from suffering and rebirth. Sikh philosophy, service and unity. Sikh philosophy, founded in the 15th century by Guru Nanak in Punjab, emphasizes devotion to God, equality among all people, and a life of service. At its heart is the belief in one universal creator, beyond form and division, who is present in all. A key principle is seva, selfless service. Sikhs are encouraged to serve humanity without desire for reward, whether through feeding the hungry, supporting the community, or helping those in need. This service is both a spiritual practice and a way to express love for God. Another guiding value is sarbat da bhala, meaning the welfare of all. Sikh philosophy rejects caste, hierarchy, and discrimination, instead affirming the unity of humanity. In practice, this is seen in traditions like the langar, a community kitchen where people of every background eat together as equals. By combining devotion, ethical living, and service, Sikh philosophy teaches that spirituality is not confined to rituals, but expressed in daily life through kindness, justice, and unity. Shinto, spirit in nature. Shinto, the indigenous spirituality of Japan, is less a formal system of doctrine and more a way of life rooted in reverence for nature and community. At its core is the belief in kami, spiritual presences or divine forces that inhabit the natural world. Kami can be found in mountains, rivers, trees, animals, ancestors, and even remarkable human achievements. Rather than separating the sacred from the ordinary, Shinto sees the divine woven into everyday life. To honor the kami, people practice rituals of purification, offering and gratitude. Shrines, often set within forests or near water, serve as places where humans can connect with the sacred rhythms of the world. Shinto philosophy emphasizes harmony between people, nature, and the spiritual forces that animate existence. It teaches that purity, respect, and gratitude are essential virtues, guiding how one interacts with both the environment and society. In this way, Shinto presents a worldview where nature is not merely a resource, but a living presence infused with spirit. To live well is to live in awareness of this sacred interconnection. Vedanta, the unity of self and absolute. Vedanta, one of the major schools of Hindu philosophy, explores the deepest questions of existence. Who am I? What is the nature of reality? Its central teaching is the relationship between the individual self, or Atman, and the ultimate reality, Brahman. Vedanta holds that beneath the layers of body, mind, and ego lies the true self, Atman, which is not separate from Brahman, the infinite, eternal ground of all being. The famous Upanishadic phrase, Tat Tvam Asi, you are that, expresses this profound unity. Ignorance, avidya, makes us believe we are limited, separate, and defined by worldly attachments. This illusion gives rise to suffering. Through study, meditation, and self-inquiry, one can pierce this illusion and realize that the self is not isolated, but identical with the Absolute. There are different interpretations of Vedanta, from non-dualism, Advaita Vedanta, which asserts complete unity, to qualified views that allow for distinctions. Yet all agree that liberation, or moksha, comes from realizing the eternal nature of the self and living in harmony with that truth. In essence, Vedanta teaches that the highest wisdom is not found outside, but within, in the recognition of our unity with the ultimate reality. Meditation, philosophy in practice. Meditation is more than a spiritual exercise. It is philosophy made practical. Across traditions from Hinduism and Buddhism to Stoicism and modern mindfulness, meditation has been used as a tool to train the mind, deepen awareness, and align life with wisdom. At its core, meditation involves directing attention. In some traditions, this means focusing on the breath or a mantra, steadying the mind against distraction. In others, it means observing thoughts and sensations as they arise without judgment to cultivate clarity and detachment. Philosophically, meditation serves a crucial role. It turns abstract ideas into lived experience. For example, Buddhism teaches impermanence and non-attachment. Meditation allows one to see these truths directly as thoughts come and go like passing clouds. Stoics practiced reflection each morning and evening, training themselves to meet challenges with calm reason. The benefits extend beyond spiritual insight. Meditation nurtures patience, compassion, and resilience. It bridges theory and practice, ensuring that wisdom is not just spoken, but embodied. In this sense, meditation is philosophy in its most intimate form, a daily practice of shaping the self, moment by moment, toward clarity, virtue, and peace. Medieval thought. Augustine, faith and reason. Saint Augustine of Hippo, a Christian thinker of the 4th and 5th centuries, shaped medieval philosophy with his exploration of the relationship between faith and reason. He believed that reason is a powerful tool for understanding the world, but that it must be guided by faith in God. For Augustine, faith is not blind belief. Instead, it is trust in divine truth, which provides a foundation upon which reason can build. His famous phrase, "I believe in order to understand," captures this idea. Belief opens the door to knowledge, and reason helps illuminate faith. He also addressed profound philosophical problems, such as the nature of evil. Augustine argued that evil is not a substance, but a privation of good, the absence of what should be. This view allowed him to defend the idea of a good and omnipotent God in a world where suffering exists. In Augustine's vision, philosophy and theology are not separate paths, but complementary. Reason sharpens understanding, while faith ensures direction. Together, they lead the soul toward truth, goodness, and ultimately, God. Aquinas, natural law and theology. Thomas Aquinas, a 13th century philosopher and theologian, sought to reconcile Aristotelian reason with Christian faith. He argued that human beings can know certain truths about God and morality through reason alone, while other truths require divine revelation. A central concept in Aquinas' thought is natural law. He claimed that the moral order is embedded in nature itself. Humans, by using reason, can discern what is good or evil, right or wrong. For example, preserving life, seeking knowledge, and living harmoniously with others are natural ends that reason recognizes. At the same time, theology provides deeper insight. Revelation, such as the teachings of Scripture, reveals truths beyond the reach of reason, including the mysteries of God's nature and salvation. Aquinas argued that reason and faith ultimately support one another. Reason prepares the mind to understand faith, while faith perfects reason. Through this synthesis, Aquinas established a framework for ethics, law, and theology that shaped medieval thought and continues to influence philosophy today. Natural law, he taught, is universal, accessible to all rational beings, and serves as the bridge between human reason and divine wisdom. Islamic Golden Age, preservation and expansion of knowledge. Between the 8th and 13th centuries, the Islamic world experienced a remarkable flourishing of philosophy, science, and learning. Scholars in cities such as Baghdad, Cordoba, and Cairo sought to preserve the knowledge of the ancient world while expanding it with original discoveries. During this period, Greek texts by Aristotle, Plato, and Galen were translated into Arabic, studied, and interpreted. Philosophers like Al-Farabi, Avicenna, and Al-Kindi engaged deeply with these works, exploring metaphysics, ethics, logic, and natural philosophy. At the same time, advancements were made in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and engineering. The Islamic Golden Age emphasized reasoned inquiry, rigorous scholarship, and the integration of knowledge across cultures. Libraries, observatories, and schools became centers where ideas were shared and debated. Knowledge was seen not merely as intellectual exercise, but as a path toward understanding creation and divine order. This era preserved the wisdom of antiquity and transmitted it to later Europe, shaping the foundations of medieval scholasticism and ultimately the Renaissance. It demonstrates how philosophy and science can thrive when curiosity, openness, and scholarship are valued. Averroes, Philosophy and Religion in Dialogue. Averroes, also known as Ibn Rushd, was a 12th century Andalusian philosopher who sought to reconcile Aristotelian philosophy with Islamic faith. He believed that reason and revelation are not opposed, but complementary paths to truth. Averroes argued that philosophical inquiry could deepen understanding of religious teachings. For example, the principles of logic and metaphysics could illuminate the meaning of the Quran rather than undermine it. He held that God endowed humans with reason, so it could be used to explore creation and divine law. At the same time, he recognized the importance of faith for guiding moral life. Philosophy explains the how of reality, while religion addresses the why and provides ethical direction. This balance allowed him to defend both rational inquiry and spiritual devotion in a society where some feared philosophical investigation as dangerous to faith. Averroes' work influenced not only the Islamic world, but also medieval Europe, where scholars such as Thomas Aquinas engaged deeply with his writings. His legacy reminds us that rigorous thought and sincere belief need not conflict. Together, they can illuminate both the natural and the divine. Maimonides, Reconciling Judaism and Reason. Maimonides, a 12th century Jewish philosopher and scholar, sought to harmonize Jewish faith with rational philosophy, particularly Aristotelian thought. Living in a time of intellectual exchange in the Islamic world, he aimed to show that reason and revelation are complementary, not contradictory. In his seminal work, Guide for the Perplexed, Maimonides addressed difficult questions. How can God be understood through human reason? How should one interpret the laws of the Torah in a rational framework? He argued that apparent contradictions between scripture and reason arise from human misunderstanding, not from divine error. Central to his philosophy is the idea that studying the natural world and employing logic is itself a path to understanding God. Ethical behavior, adherence to law, and intellectual pursuit are all ways of aligning human life with divine wisdom. Maimonides' work influenced both Jewish thought and medieval scholasticism in Europe. He teaches that faith need not oppose reason, and that true understanding of God and morality comes from integrating devotion with careful, disciplined inquiry. Scholasticism, philosophy in universities. Scholasticism was the dominant method of philosophical and theological study in medieval European universities, flourishing between the 11th and 15th centuries. Its goal was to systematically reconcile faith and reason, using rigorous logic to explore the truths of theology and philosophy. Scholastic thinkers such as Thomas Aquinas, Peter Abelard, and Duns Scotus employed a method of question, objection, and resolution. They would pose a question, examine arguments for and against, and then offer a reasoned conclusion. This method emphasized clarity, precision, and logical consistency. Universities became centers of intellectual life, where students debated questions about God, morality, the natural world, and human knowledge. Scholasticism was deeply influenced by Aristotle, whose works were rediscovered and translated from Arabic and Greek sources. The scholastic approach trained students to think critically, analyze arguments, and balance reason with faith. It shaped the development of Western philosophy, laying the groundwork for modern logic, science, and ethics. Scholasticism shows how disciplined reasoning can illuminate questions of both human and divine significance. Mysticism, experiencing the divine directly. Mysticism in the medieval period explored a path of direct experience of the divine, beyond the limits of reason or scripture. Mystics sought union with God or ultimate reality through contemplation, prayer, and spiritual practice, emphasizing personal insight over intellectual argument. Figures such as Meister Eckhart, Julian of Norwich, and Rumi emphasized that the soul can encounter the divine presence inwardly. This experience often transcends ordinary language, described as ineffable, silent, or boundless. Mysticism teaches that ultimate truth is not only understood by thought, but lived and felt. While philosophy analyzes and explains, mysticism immerses and transforms. It encourages the practitioner to cultivate stillness, surrender, and deep attentiveness, fostering moral refinement and spiritual awareness. Mystical traditions appear across religions: Christian, Islamic, Sufism, Jewish, Kabbalah, and Hindu-Buddhist schools, revealing a shared insight. Reason alone cannot exhaust the divine. True wisdom often includes direct, intimate experience, reminding us that some truths must be realized, not merely studied. Medieval logic, refining Aristotle. During the medieval period, philosophers focused on logic as a tool for understanding truth, building upon and refining the work of Aristotle. Logic was not merely abstract reasoning. It was the framework for exploring theology, ethics, and natural philosophy. Medieval thinkers, including Peter Abelard, William of Ockham, and Albertus Magnus, developed sophisticated methods for analyzing arguments, identifying contradictions, and clarifying concepts. They studied syllogisms, propositions, and definitions to ensure that reasoning was precise and reliable. This emphasis on logic allowed scholars to tackle complex questions. How can divine attributes be reconciled with human understanding? What is the nature of universals? How should language represent reality? By structuring arguments carefully, medieval logicians provided clarity in debates that might otherwise become confused or circular. The refinement of Aristotelian logic during this period laid the foundation for later developments in mathematics, science, and philosophy. It taught that careful, disciplined reasoning is essential, not only for abstract study, but for understanding the natural and moral order of the world. The problem of universals. Do concepts exist? The problem of universals is a central question in medieval philosophy. Do general concepts, such as redness or humanity, exist independently of particular things, or are they merely names we give to groups of objects? Plato had argued that universals exist as perfect forms in an abstract realm. Aristotle, by contrast, saw them as real patterns present in individual things. Medieval thinkers debated these positions extensively. Realists like Thomas Aquinas held that universals have a basis in reality, existing in individual instances as part of God's design. Nominalists, such as William of Ockham, argued that universals exist only in the mind as convenient labels for groups of particulars. This debate was not merely abstract. It influenced logic, language, and theology, shaping how philosophers reasoned about God, morality, and knowledge itself. For example, understanding whether goodness exists in itself or only as a concept affects how we interpret divine law and human ethics. The problem of universals highlights a key medieval insight. Philosophy must examine not just what exists, but how we think and speak about what exists. It reminds us that clarity of thought and precision of language are essential for approaching truth. Occam's razor, the simplest explanation. Occam's razor is a principle attributed to the 14th century philosopher William of Ockham. It advises that when faced with competing explanations for the same phenomenon, one should prefer the simplest solution that accounts for all the facts. The principle is not a claim about truth, but a guideline for reasoning. Complexity can obscure understanding, introduce unnecessary assumptions, and lead to error. By stripping away superfluous explanations, we focus on what is essential, making reasoning clearer and more effective. In medieval philosophy, Occam applied this idea to debates in theology, metaphysics, and logic. For example, when discussing universals, he argued that positing abstract entities beyond individual things was unnecessary. Instead, simpler explanations, concepts existing only in the mind, were sufficient. Occam's razor has endured far beyond medieval thought. It informs scientific method, philosophical argumentation, and everyday problem-solving. The lesson is profound yet practical. Simplicity is not merely elegant, it is a tool for clarity, precision, and discovering truth. Renaissance and early modern. Humanism. Man as the measure. Renaissance. Humanism, emerging in 14th to 16th century Europe, placed human beings at the center of intellectual inquiry. Inspired by classical texts from Greece and Rome, humanists emphasized the dignity, potential, and agency of individuals. The phrase, "man is the measure of all things," often associated with Protagoras, captures this perspective. Humans are capable of reason, creativity, and ethical discernment. Humanism encouraged the study of literature, history, philosophy, and the arts, not as mere ornament, but as tools for cultivating virtue, wisdom, and civic responsibility. Humanists believed that education should develop the whole person, intellect, character, and aesthetic sensibility. They shifted focus from purely religious instruction to a balanced exploration of human experience. By celebrating human potential while retaining moral reflection, Renaissance humanism laid the foundation for modern education, individual rights, and secular inquiry. In essence, humanism teaches that understanding humanity, its capacities, limitations, and responsibilities, is a path to knowledge, virtue, and the flourishing of both individuals and society. Machiavelli, Power and Pragmatism. Niccolò Machiavelli, a Renaissance thinker in the 16th century Italy, explored the realities of political power with a pragmatic, sometimes unsettling honesty. His most famous work, The Prince, examines how rulers maintain authority, stability, and the security of their states. Machiavelli departed from idealistic visions of governance, focusing instead on what actually works. He argued that morality and politics are not always aligned. A successful leader may need to act ruthlessly, strategically, or deceptively when circumstances demand it. Yet he also emphasized prudence, foresight, and the importance of public perception. This pragmatic approach is not merely cynical. Machiavelli recognized the human capacity for both virtue and vice, and he sought to understand the patterns of political life so leaders could navigate them effectively. His work emphasizes cause, effect, and consequence over idealized notions of justice or virtue. Ultimately, Machiavelli teaches that wisdom in leadership arises from realistic assessment of human nature, careful planning, and the courage to act decisively. He challenges us to confront the tension between ethics and effectiveness in governance, showing that the path to stability often requires nuanced judgment. Descartes, I think, therefore I am. René Descartes, a 17th century French philosopher, sought a foundation of certainty in a world of doubt. Confronted with uncertainty, he turned inward, asking, "What can I know for sure?" This inquiry led to his famous declaration, "Cogito ergo sum," I think, therefore I am. For Descartes, the act of doubting proves the existence of the self. Even if everything else is uncertain, the material world, other minds, or even God, the thinking mind is undeniable. This insight becomes the starting point for philosophy, a firm, self-evident foundation upon which knowledge can be built. Descartes also distinguished between mind and body, laying the groundwork for dualism, and emphasized the use of reason and methodical doubt to achieve clarity. He believed that through careful, logical thinking, humans could reach truth and understand the natural world. In essence, Descartes teaches us to question, reflect, and seek certainty where we can. The mind, through conscious thought, becomes both the anchor of knowledge and the tool for exploring the universe. Spinoza, God as Nature. Baruch Spinoza, a 17th century Dutch philosopher, offered a vision of reality in which God and nature are one. Rejecting the idea of a personal interventionist deity, Spinoza proposed that everything that exists, the stars, the oceans, human minds, is a part of the single infinite substance he called God or nature, Deus sive natura. For Spinoza, understanding the universe is simultaneously understanding God. Ethics, he argued, emerges naturally from this perspective. By comprehending the laws of nature and our place within them, we align ourselves with reality, achieve freedom, and cultivate peace of mind. Desire, fear, and ignorance disturb this harmony, while reason allows the mind to perceive the world clearly and act in accordance with necessity. Spinoza's philosophy dissolves the traditional divide between the sacred and the natural. To live virtuously is to live rationally, embracing the interconnectedness of all things, and to see oneself as a part of the eternal unfolding of the universe. In essence, Spinoza teaches that divinity is not separate from existence, and that wisdom comes from understanding the patterns of nature and our place within them. Leibniz, the best of all possible worlds. Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, a 17th century German philosopher, proposed that our universe, despite its imperfections, is the best of all possible worlds. He reasoned that an all-powerful, all-knowing, and benevolent God would choose to create a world that maximizes goodness, order, and harmony while minimizing suffering. Leibniz introduced the concept of monads, simple, indivisible substances that make up reality, each reflecting the universe from its own perspective. These monads operate in pre-established harmony, coordinated by God to create a coherent and purposeful cosmos. Though the world contains pain and evil, Leibniz argued that these are necessary consequences of greater goods or unavoidable limitations. This perspective encourages a recognition of the underlying order and purpose in life, even when events seem chaotic or unjust. Leibniz's philosophy reminds us that reality is complex, interconnected, and rationally structured. By seeking understanding and seeing the broader context, we can appreciate the balance, order, and hidden wisdom woven into the fabric of existence. Hobbes, the social contract of survival. Thomas Hobbes, a 17th century English philosopher, examined human nature with stark realism. He argued that in the natural state, without governance, life is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Humans are driven by desire and fear, competing for resources and security. To escape this chaotic state, Hobbes proposed the social contract. Individuals collectively agree to surrender some freedoms to a sovereign authority in exchange for protection and order. This authority, whether a monarch or governing body, enforces laws, preventing conflict and ensuring survival. Hobbes's view emphasizes pragmatism over idealism. Morality and justice are not intrinsic, but arise from agreements that preserve peace. Political authority is justified not by divine right alone, but by necessity and reason. Hobbes teaches that human society is a delicate balance between freedom and security. By understanding the natural drives of humanity, we can design institutions that protect life and enable cooperation, showing that philosophy can illuminate the foundations of social order itself. Locke, Natural Rights and Government. John Locke, a 17th century English philosopher, argued that all humans are born with natural rights: life, liberty, and property. These rights are inherent and cannot be surrendered, forming the foundation of just political authority. Locke contended that governments exist not by divine mandate alone, but by the consent of the governed, to protect these rights. If a ruler violates this trust, citizens have the right, and even duty, to resist or replace the government. This idea laid the groundwork for modern democracy and constitutional government. Locke also emphasized reason and tolerance. He believed that knowledge of natural law allows people to discern right from wrong, and that society functions best when government respects individual freedoms while maintaining order. In essence, Locke teaches that legitimate authority derives from moral principles and rational consent, not coercion. Protecting human dignity and rights is the central purpose of governance, reminding us that liberty and responsibility are inseparable pillars of a just society. Rousseau, Freedom and Inequality. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, an 18th century French philosopher, explored the tension between natural freedom and the inequalities created by society. He imagined the state of nature as a time when humans were free, equal, and guided by instinct and compassion, uncorrupted by wealth, status, or power. According to Rousseau, as societies developed, private property and social institutions introduced inequality, competition, and dependency. These changes constrained human freedom and fostered injustice. To reclaim genuine freedom, he proposed the social contract, where individuals collectively agree to form a community governed by the general will, the shared interest of all, rather than private ambitions. Rousseau's thought challenges us to consider how social structures shape liberty and morality. True freedom, he argued, is not mere license, but participation in a system that promotes equality, mutual respect, and civic responsibility. In essence, Rousseau teaches that understanding freedom requires examining both our natural capacities and the social frameworks that enable or restrict them. Only by aligning society with the common good can humans live authentically and justly. Hume, Empiricism and Skepticism. David Hume, an 18th century Scottish philosopher, emphasized that all knowledge begins with experience. He argued that the mind is a collection of impressions and ideas derived from sensory perception, and that reason alone cannot produce knowledge of the world. Hume's empiricism led him to skepticism regarding causality, the self, and even religious claims. He questioned whether we can ever truly know that one event causes another, or whether our sense of personal identity is more than a bundle of fleeting perceptions. Despite this skepticism, Hume did not reject inquiry. He encouraged careful observation, reflection, and the use of evidence. He demonstrated that understanding human nature, ethics, and society requires grounding ideas in experience rather than abstract speculation. Hume teaches that knowledge is provisional and that certainty is limited. By cultivating critical thinking and attentive observation, we develop clarity and humility, recognizing both the power and the limits of human reason. Kant, Duty and Moral Law. Immanuel Kant, an 18th century German philosopher, sought a foundation for ethics based on reason and duty rather than consequences or emotions. He proposed that moral law is universal, binding all rational beings, and is discovered through reason alone. Central to Kant's thought is the categorical imperative. Act only according to principles you could will to become universal laws. In other words, before acting, ask whether the rule guiding your action could be applied consistently to everyone, everywhere. If it cannot, the action is morally impermissible. Kant emphasized that humans have intrinsic worth and should never be treated merely as means to an end. Ethics, he argued, is a matter of principle and respect, not utility or desire. Through this approach, Kant teaches that morality is grounded in rationality and the dignity of persons. By acting from duty and adhering to universal moral law, individuals cultivate ethical integrity, demonstrating that the highest good arises from principled, reasoned choice rather than circumstance or sentiment. 19th century ideas. Voltaire, Reason, Critique, and Tolerance. Voltaire, one of the leading figures of the Enlightenment, was a tireless advocate for reason, critique, and tolerance. Born in 1694, he challenged dogma, superstition, and authoritarian power, insisting that human beings could improve society through rational thought and critical inquiry. Voltaire believed that many social and political injustices stemmed from blind faith and unquestioned authority. Through his writings, from biting satire to philosophical essays, he exposed the absurdities of rigid institutions, including the church and monarchy, encouraging individuals to think independently. His famous cry, "Écrasez l'infâme," crush the infamous, symbolized his lifelong opposition to intolerance and oppression. Crucially, Voltaire championed tolerance. He argued that a society could only flourish when people respected differing beliefs and ideas, even if they disagreed. Reason, for Voltaire, was a tool not just for scientific understanding, but for social justice and human dignity. Studying Voltaire reminds us that philosophy can be both intellectual and practical. It can sharpen the mind and transform society, guiding us to question assumptions, speak truth to power, and cultivate a world where reason and compassion coexist. Hegel, History as Dialectic. Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, a German philosopher of the early 19th century, believed that history is not random, but follows a rational process he called the dialectic. In his view, history unfolds as a dynamic movement of ideas, where contradictions push humanity toward greater freedom and self-awareness. The dialectic works like this. An idea, or thesis, encounters its opposite, the antithesis. The conflict between them produces a synthesis, a new idea that reconciles aspects of both while moving understanding forward. Importantly, this synthesis does not end conflict, but becomes the new thesis, continuing the process. Hegel saw this movement not only in abstract thought, but in the progression of world history. For him, the story of nations, revolutions, and cultures was ultimately the story of human freedom becoming more fully realized. Each stage of history, even its conflicts and tragedies, contributed to humanity's development. Hegel's philosophy inspires us to see history not as chaos, but as an intelligible process of growth. It challenges us to look at contradictions in politics, culture, or even our own lives, not as dead ends, but as forces that drive progress toward deeper understanding. Marx, Class Struggle, and Materialism. Karl Marx, writing in the 19th century, shifted philosophy's focus from abstract ideas to material conditions, the economic and social structures that shape human life. He argued that history is fundamentally driven by class struggle, the conflict between those who control resources and those who labor to produce them. In his view, every society rests on a mode of production, such as feudalism or capitalism, which organizes how wealth is created and distributed. These systems are never neutral. They create classes with opposing interests. Under capitalism, for example, the bourgeoisie, owners of capital, seek profit, while the proletariat, workers, struggle for fair conditions. The clash between these groups is not accidental, but inherent to the system itself. Marx called his framework historical materialism. Unlike Hegel, who emphasized the evolution of ideas, Marx argued that material conditions, economics, labor, and ownership, drive change. Ideas, laws, and culture, he claimed, often reflect the interests of the ruling class. Studying Marx invites us to examine how power and inequality shape the world around us. It raises difficult but vital questions. Who benefits from the current system? Who is left behind? And how might society transform to serve all? Nietzsche. Will to power and eternal recurrence. Friedrich Nietzsche was one of the most provocative thinkers of the 19th century. He challenged traditional morality, religion, and even philosophy itself, urging us to confront life directly, without illusions. Two of his most famous ideas are the will to power and the eternal recurrence. The will to power is Nietzsche's idea that at the root of all human striving is not survival or happiness, but a deep drive to grow, expand, and assert strength. This force can be destructive, but at its best, it fuels creativity, ambition, and the pursuit of excellence. For Nietzsche, the highest human being, the Übermensch or Overman, channels this will to power into shaping new values rather than passively following old ones. The eternal recurrence is a thought experiment. Imagine that you must live your life every moment, again and again, endlessly. Would you embrace this fate with joy or despair at the repetition? For Nietzsche, this test measures our ability to affirm life fully, with all its pain and beauty. Together, these ideas urge us to live boldly, to create meaning ourselves, and to embrace existence wholeheartedly, as if we would choose it forever. Mill, Utilitarian Ethics. John Stuart Mill, one of the most influential English philosophers of the 19th century, is best known for refining utilitarianism. The idea that morality is about promoting the greatest happiness for the greatest number. Building on the work of Jeremy Bentham, Mill sought to give this principle depth and nuance. Mill argued that happiness, understood as pleasure, and the absence of pain is the ultimate measure of right and wrong. But unlike Bentham, who treated all pleasures as equal, Mill distinguished between higher and lower pleasures. Intellectual, moral, and artistic pursuits, he claimed, bring deeper fulfillment than mere physical satisfaction. As he famously wrote, "It is better to be a human being dissatisfied than a pig satisfied." His utilitarian ethics extended into politics. In his work on liberty, Mill defended individual freedom, arguing that society should only limit personal actions when they harm others. This balance, maximizing happiness while protecting liberty, remains central to modern debates on law, rights, and government. Studying Mill encourages us to weigh the consequences of our choices, both personally and collectively. It challenges us to act not just for ourselves, but with a view toward the well-being of all. Schopenhauer, The World as Will and Representation. Arthur Schopenhauer, a German philosopher of the early 19th century, offered a strikingly different view of reality. In his great work, The World as Will and Representation, he argued that the world has two sides. First, there is the world as representation, the way reality appears to us through perception, shaped by our senses and intellect. Everything we experience, objects, time, space, causality, is mediated by the mind. In this respect, Schopenhauer drew heavily from Immanuel Kant. But beneath this appearance, he claimed, lies the will, a blind, restless, and irrational force driving all life. Plants striving toward the sun, animals hunting for food, humans pursuing desires, all are expressions of this will. It is endless, insatiable, and often a source of suffering, since desire always returns once fulfilled. Schopenhauer suggested two ways to quiet the will: through aesthetic experience, where art and beauty allow us to step outside, striving for a moment, and through compassion and asceticism, where self-denial lessens the will's grip. His philosophy influenced later thinkers, including Nietzsche and Freud. It asks us to consider, is much of life driven not by reason, but by deeper forces that we only dimly understand? Positivism. Knowledge through science alone. In the 19th century, Auguste Comte introduced positivism, a philosophy that placed science at the very center of human understanding. For Comte, true knowledge comes only from what can be observed, measured, and verified. Anything beyond this, metaphysical speculation or religious doctrine, he dismissed as unreliable. Comte proposed that human thought evolves in three stages. First, the theological stage, where phenomena are explained through gods and spirits. Second, the metaphysical stage, where abstract principles replace divine causes. Finally, the scientific or positive stage, where reason and observation provide explanations grounded in natural laws. Positivism had a profound impact on the development of sociology, which Comte himself founded. and influenced many scientists and philosophers who sought to rid inquiry of speculation. Its emphasis on empirical data and verifiable evidence became a cornerstone of modern science. Yet positivism also raises questions. Does science alone capture all aspects of human existence? Can love, beauty, or morality be reduced to measurements? While positivism reminds us of the power of science, it also invites reflection on whether there are dimensions of reality, meaning, value, inner life, that resist purely scientific description. Pragmatism, truth as what works. Pragmatism, emerging in the late 19th century with thinkers like Charles Sanders Peirce and William James, offers a practical approach to truth and knowledge. Instead of asking whether ideas correspond perfectly to some abstract reality, pragmatists ask, what difference does this belief make in experience? For pragmatists, truth is not static or absolute. An idea is considered true if it works, if it successfully guides action and resolves problems. For example, scientific theories, moral principles, or social rules gain their legitimacy not merely by formal logic, but by their practical consequences, how they shape outcomes, decisions, and lives. William James emphasized that truth is a process, not a fixed property. Our beliefs are tested continually against experience, and we revise them when they fail to serve us. Pragmatism, therefore, is a philosophy of experimentation, adaptability, and learning. This perspective encourages flexibility in thought, tolerance of differing viewpoints, and attention to real-world effects. It reminds us that philosophy is not only abstract reasoning, but also a tool for navigating life. Ideas must be lived, tested, and refined to be meaningful, transforming inquiry into a dynamic conversation between thought and experience. Romanticism, emotion, and individuality. Romanticism, flourishing in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, was a reaction against rigid reason and industrial society. Philosophers, poets, and artists emphasized emotion, imagination, and individuality as central to human experience. Whereas Enlightenment thinkers celebrated universal laws and rational thought, Romantics sought the uniqueness of each person and the depth of feeling that shapes life. Thinkers like Johann Wolfgang von Goethe and William Wordsworth celebrated the natural world as a mirror of human emotion, teaching that nature is not merely a resource to exploit, but a source of insight and inspiration. Romantic philosophy emphasized the inner life, intuition, creativity, and personal reflection over formulas or dogma. This movement also challenged social conformity. It celebrated the individual's capacity to interpret the world in a unique way, to cultivate personal authenticity, and to resist pressures to standardize thought and behavior. Emotions for Romantics were not weaknesses to suppress, but essential guides to understanding meaning, beauty, and morality. Studying Romanticism reminds us that human experience is not reducible to logic or science alone. To live fully, we must honor our feelings, nurture imagination, and recognize the singularity of each life. For our emotions and individuality are vital dimensions of wisdom. Freud, the unconscious mind. Sigmund Freud, a pioneering figure in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, transformed philosophy and psychology by exploring the unconscious mind, the part of our psyche that shapes thoughts, desires, and behaviors without our awareness. He argued that much of human life is driven not by rational choice, but by hidden impulses, memories, and instincts. Freud divided the mind into three parts: the id, representing primal drives, the ego, the conscious self navigating reality, and the superego, the internalized rules and moral standards of society. Conflict between these parts, he suggested, gives rise to anxiety, dreams, and symbolic behavior. Dreams, in particular, are windows into unconscious desires, offering insight into motivations we may not fully understand. Freud's ideas influenced not only psychology, but philosophy, literature, and cultural thought. He challenged the notion that humans are fully rational agents, showing that unconscious forces shape morality, creativity, and relationships. Studying Freud encourages introspection. By acknowledging the unseen layers of the mind, we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and others. Philosophy, in dialogue with psychoanalysis, becomes a tool not only for reasoning about the world, but for exploring the hidden currents that guide human experience. Existentialism and 20th century thought. Sartre, radical freedom. Jean-Paul Sartre, the French philosopher and playwright, is perhaps the most famous voice of existentialism. At the heart of his philosophy is a startling claim: existence precedes essence. In other words, human beings are not born with a fixed nature or purpose. Unlike a knife, designed with the clear purpose of cutting, we arrive in the world first, and only later define what we will be. This leads Sartre to the idea of radical freedom. We are, he insists, condemned to be free. That phrase sounds paradoxical, but Sartre means that freedom is unavoidable. Every choice we make, to act or not to act, is ultimately our responsibility. We cannot hide behind tradition, divine command, or even social expectation to excuse ourselves. If we follow orders, that too is a choice. With freedom comes the heavy burden of responsibility for shaping not only ourselves, but also the world in which we live. This is both liberating and terrifying. Sartre believed most people try to flee from this responsibility into what he called bad faith, self-deception, pretending we are bound by roles or fate. Yet for Sartre, authenticity demands that we confront our freedom directly, even when it is uncomfortable. Camus, the absurd. Albert Camus, often linked with existentialism, though he preferred to stand apart, developed his philosophy around the idea of the absurd. The absurd arises from a clash. Human beings naturally seek meaning, clarity, and order, yet the universe often appears silent and indifferent to those demands. To illustrate this, Camus turned to the myth of Sisyphus, condemned to push a boulder up a hill again and again, only to see it roll back down. The endless repetition captures something familiar in human life. We labor, we strive, we build, yet our efforts rarely resolve into a final, lasting meaning. For Camus, recognizing this absurdity is not a reason for despair. Instead, it is an invitation to live more fully. Once we stop expecting the universe to hand us ultimate answers, we gain the freedom to create value through our choices, actions, and creativity. The absurd, then, becomes a starting point, a call to embrace life as it is, with all its unpredictability and imperfection. Camus concludes that dignity and even joy are possible in this acceptance. By acknowledging the absurd and still choosing to live with passion, we transform struggle into a source of strength. Heidegger, Being and Time. Martin Heidegger's Being and Time is one of the most influential and challenging works of 20th century philosophy. At its heart lies a question that had been strangely neglected since the days of the ancient Greeks. What does it mean to be? Heidegger argued that most philosophy took being for granted, treating it as obvious. But he insisted that the way humans exist is unique. He coined the term Dasein, being there, to describe human existence. Unlike objects, humans are aware of their own being, and this awareness shapes how we live. Heidegger emphasized that Dasein is always in the world, not separate from it. We are defined by our relationships, our projects, and the contexts we inhabit. Crucially, he noted that we live with an awareness, often hidden, but always present, of our own finitude. Death, for Heidegger, is not just an event at the end of life, but a horizon that gives urgency and shape to everything we do. Rather than drifting through life in what he called inauthenticity, simply conforming to social norms, Heidegger urged us to live authentically, to confront our mortality and choose our lives deliberately. Being and time reminds us that existence is not static. It is a task, one we must take up consciously. Merleau-Ponty, The Body and Perception. Maurice Merleau-Ponty, a French phenomenologist, shifted philosophy's focus from abstract thought to lived experience. In works like Phenomenology of Perception, 1945, he argued that human existence cannot be understood by separating the mind from the body. Instead, perception, our direct embodied experience of the world, is the foundation of knowledge. Traditionally, philosophy often treated the body as a machine and the mind as something separate, echoing Descartes' dualism. Merleau-Ponty challenged this. He claimed we are not detached minds looking out at the world, but embodied beings whose understanding arises through action, movement, and sensation. For example, when you grasp a cup or walk through a doorway, you don't consciously calculate dimensions. Your body already knows how to move. This idea, often called the embodiment thesis, has had profound influence not just in philosophy, but also in psychology, cognitive science, and even artificial intelligence. Merleau-Ponty showed that perception is not passive reception of data. It is an active engagement with the world. By highlighting the body's role in shaping experience, he invited us to rethink what it means to be human. We are not minds trapped in bodies, but beings whose very thinking and knowing are inseparable from our physical existence. Simone de Beauvoir, Feminist Philosophy. Simone de Beauvoir, one of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century, reshaped philosophy by examining the lived reality of women. In her groundbreaking book, The Second Sex, she explored how women throughout history have been cast as the other, defined in relation to men, rather than as independent beings. Her famous claim, "One is not born, but rather becomes a woman," highlights that gender is not merely biological, but socially constructed. Society imposes expectations, roles, and limitations that shape how women see themselves and how they are treated. Philosophy, she argued, had too often ignored or dismissed these lived experiences. Drawing from existentialism, de Beauvoir insisted on freedom and responsibility. Just as Sartre emphasized radical freedom, she extended the idea. Women must claim their freedom, resist limiting norms, and create their own paths. But she also acknowledged that social structures and oppression make this struggle far more difficult. Her work gave rise to feminist philosophy as a serious academic field, and influenced movements for gender equality worldwide. More broadly, she challenged all of us to see how identity is shaped by power, culture, and expectation, and to take responsibility for living authentically in spite of them. Postmodernism. Truth as relative. Postmodernism arose in the mid-20th century as a challenge to the grand systems of thought that claimed to explain everything, from science to morality to history. At its core, postmodernism questions whether there is a single objective truth waiting to be discovered. Instead, it argues that what we call truth is often shaped by language, culture, and perspective. Jean-François Lyotard famously defined postmodernism as incredulity toward meta-narratives. By this, he meant skepticism toward sweeping stories like progress, reason, or universal morality that claim to apply everywhere and to everyone. Postmodern thinkers argue that these grand narratives often hide power structures and silence alternative voices. In this view, truth is not absolute, but relative to context. What is considered true in one society may not be in another. Even science, though rigorous, is seen as a human practice shaped by assumptions, paradigms, and historical conditions. Critics worry this leads to radical relativism, the idea that all truths are equal, leaving no basis for judgment. But defenders argue postmodernism is less about denying truth altogether and more about humility, reminding us that knowledge is never neutral and that listening to different perspectives broadens our understanding. Derrida, deconstruction. Jacques Derrida's philosophy of deconstruction is one of the most challenging and often misunderstood ideas of the 20th century. At its heart, deconstruction is not about destroying meaning, but about showing how meaning is never fixed or absolute. Derrida argued that language works through differences. Words don't carry meaning on their own, they point to other words in an endless chain of references. For example, if you look up the meaning of a word in the dictionary, you are directed to other words, which in turn rely on still more words. This means language never lands on a single, stable foundation. Because of this, every text carries within it contradictions and ambiguities. Deconstruction is the practice of uncovering these tensions, showing that a text often undermines its own claims. For instance, a philosophy that insists on a rigid binary, such as truth/error or male/female, often relies on assumptions that blur the very boundary it tries to enforce. Critics sometimes say Derrida denied truth or logic, but that's not accurate. Instead, he revealed the fragility of language and reminded us that interpretation is always open-ended. Deconstruction challenges us to read more carefully and more creatively. Foucault, Power and Knowledge. Michel Foucault transformed how we think about power. Traditionally, power was seen as something rulers or governments possessed and imposed on people. Foucault argued instead that power is everywhere, woven into the fabric of society, institutions, and even our daily interactions. For Foucault, power and knowledge are inseparable. Knowledge is not neutral, it is shaped by those in power, and in turn, it reinforces power. For example, consider how prisons, schools, or hospitals operate. These institutions don't just manage people, they also produce knowledge about what counts as normal or deviant, healthy or sick, educated or ignorant. This knowledge becomes a way to discipline individuals, guiding how they behave and even how they see themselves. A striking example is his study of prisons. Foucault showed how modern systems of surveillance, from guards to cameras, don't just punish, but also train people to monitor themselves. In this way, power works most effectively, not through force, but through shaping habits, norms, and identities. Foucault's insight is both unsettling and empowering. It reminds us that power is not only imposed from above, but also reproduced in everyday practices, and that by questioning these systems, we can begin to imagine alternatives. Structuralism. Patterns in human thought. Structuralism, developed by thinkers like Claude Lévi-Strauss and Ferdinand de Saussure, approaches human thought and culture by seeking the underlying structures that shape how we perceive, communicate, and organize experience. Instead of focusing on individual events or isolated ideas, structuralists look for patterns, recurring systems of relationships that make meaning possible. In language, Saussure distinguished between langue, the rules and structure of language, and parole, individual speech. He showed that meaning does not reside in words alone, but in their differences and relationships to other words. For example, the word cat has meaning not because of some inherent property, but because it is distinct from dog, rat, or lion. Lévi-Strauss applied a similar method to myths, discovering universal patterns of human thought underlying seemingly different stories across cultures. These structures reveal how humans understand the world, resolve conflicts, and navigate social life. Studying structuralism teaches us that much of what we perceive as unique or spontaneous is actually shaped by hidden systems. By uncovering these patterns, we gain insight into language, culture, and thought itself, learning to see the invisible frameworks that shape human experience. Analytic philosophy, language, and logic. Analytic philosophy, emerging in the early 20th century with thinkers like Bertrand Russell and G.E. Moore, emphasizes clarity, precision, and rigorous reasoning. Its central insight is that many philosophical problems arise from confusion in language. By carefully analyzing how we use words, sentences, and concepts, analytic philosophers aim to dissolve rather than mystify difficult questions. For example, questions about truth, knowledge, or morality can often be clarified by examining the logic of the statements involved. Russell developed symbolic logic to express ideas with precision, allowing philosophers to see hidden assumptions and contradictions. Language, in this framework, is not merely descriptive, but a tool for reasoning, uncovering the structure of thought itself. Analytic philosophy also stresses argumentation over storytelling. While existentialists might explore human experience through literature or reflection, analytic philosophers focus on building logical chains, testing definitions, and distinguishing valid reasoning from fallacy. Studying analytic philosophy teaches careful thinking, critical analysis, and disciplined communication. It reminds us that many puzzles dissolve when examined with rigor, and that clarity in language is essential not only for philosophy, but for everyday understanding and decision-making. Ethics and morality. Virtue ethics, character over rules. When we think about morality, we often ask, what should I do? But virtue ethics, with roots in Aristotle's philosophy, shifts the question to, what kind of person should I be? Instead of focusing on strict rules or calculating outcomes, This approach emphasizes the cultivation of character. For Aristotle, virtues like courage, honesty, and generosity are habits developed through practice. A virtuous person doesn't simply follow a rule book. They act well because it has become part of who they are. The key is finding the golden mean, the balance between extremes. For example, courage lies between recklessness and cowardice. Virtue ethics highlights the importance of moral education, community, and role models. We learn virtue by imitating others, reflecting on our actions, and striving for excellence in daily life. In this sense, morality is less about isolated decisions and more about lifelong growth. This framework continues to influence debates today, from leadership ethics to personal development. By focusing on who we are becoming, virtue ethics reminds us that morality is not just a series of choices, but a journey toward human flourishing, a life lived with integrity, balance, and purpose. Deontology. Duties and principles. Deontology, most famously associated with Immanuel Kant, takes a very different approach to morality than virtue ethics or utilitarianism. Instead of asking about character or consequences, it asks, what are my duties? What principles must I follow, no matter the outcome? Kant argued that moral actions are those done out of duty, guided by reason. He introduced the categorical imperative, a test to determine whether an action is morally right. One version states, act only according to that maxim, which you can, at the same time, will to become a universal law. In other words, before acting, ask, what if everyone did this? If the action could be willed universally without contradiction, it is moral. Another formulation emphasizes treating people as ends in themselves, never merely as means. This principle protects human dignity. Lying, exploitation, or manipulation are wrong, even if they might lead to good outcomes, because they disrespect the inherent worth of persons. Deontology is powerful because it gives morality firm boundaries. It challenges the idea that the ends justify the means and insists some actions are simply wrong. Yet critics argue it can be rigid, leaving little room for context or compromise. Still, deontology remains central in law, human rights, and professional codes of ethics, where duties and principles set clear standards for moral behavior. Consequentialism. Outcomes define morality. Consequentialism is the ethical theory that judges actions by their results. Unlike deontology, which stresses duty, or virtue ethics, which emphasizes character, consequentialism simply asks, what will happen if I do this? An action is right if it leads to the best overall consequences. The most well-known form is utilitarianism, developed by Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. Utilitarianism holds that we should maximize happiness and minimize suffering. The greatest good for the greatest number. This principle is straightforward and highly practical. It influences economics, politics, and even everyday choices, like deciding whether to recycle or support a policy that benefits society as a whole. But consequentialism has challenges. If only outcomes matter, does that mean lying, breaking promises, or harming one person could be justified if it leads to greater happiness for others? Critics worry this approach could permit injustice, sacrificing individuals for the sake of the majority. Despite these criticisms, consequentialism forces us to think carefully about the real-world impact of our actions. It asks us to look beyond intentions and principles and consider the bigger picture: who benefits, who suffers, and whether our choices genuinely make the world better. Relativism. Morality across cultures. Moral relativism is the view that morality is not absolute, but depends on culture, society, or individual perspective. What one community considers right, say dietary laws, marriage customs, or systems of justice, may be judged differently elsewhere. From this standpoint, moral rules are human-made and shaped by history, tradition, and context rather than fixed universal truths. This perspective encourages humility. Instead of assuming our way is the only way, relativism reminds us that others may live by values that make sense within their cultural framework. It also highlights the diversity of human life and challenges the idea that ethics can be reduced to a single standard. However, relativism raises deep problems. If all moral codes are equally valid, can we ever criticize harmful practices such as slavery, oppression, or discrimination when they are accepted within a culture? If morality is entirely relative, does that mean there is no basis for human rights at all? Supporters argue that relativism promotes tolerance and open-mindedness, while critics worry it can slide into moral indifference. The debate forces us to balance respect for cultural diversity with the search for principles that transcend differences and uphold justice for all. Moral realism. Objective moral facts. Moral realism is the belief that moral truths exist independently of human opinion. Just as there are facts about gravity or mathematics, there are facts about right and wrong. For the moral realist, actions like kindness or cruelty have objective moral qualities, regardless of whether a culture or individual recognizes them. This view appeals to our intuition. When we say, slavery is wrong, we usually don't mean wrong in my opinion or wrong in my culture. We mean wrong, full stop. Moral realism grounds such judgments in something beyond shifting preferences, perhaps in human nature, rational principles, or even the fabric of reality itself. Philosophers debate the source of these objective values. Some argue they are woven into human reason, as Kant believed. Others see them as natural facts about human flourishing, as Aristotle hinted. Religious thinkers may claim they are grounded in the will of God. Critics, however, question how we can know these moral facts, or why the universe would contain them at all. Are they discoverable, like scientific laws, or are they projections of human minds? The challenge of moral realism is to defend the idea that morality is not just convention, but truth. Free will, choice or illusion? Few questions cut as deeply into philosophy as the problem of free will. On the surface, we feel free. We decide what to eat, which career to pursue, or whether to tell the truth. But are these choices truly ours, or are they determined by prior causes? Determinists argue that every action follows inevitably from a chain of events: genetics, environment, upbringing, even the laws of physics. If that's true, then when you choose chocolate over vanilla, perhaps the choice was already fixed long before you were born. Defenders of free will push back. They argue that moral responsibility makes no sense unless we are genuinely free. Punishing someone for a crime or praising an act of kindness presupposes that the person could have acted differently. Some philosophers adopt a middle ground called compatibilism. Even if the world is determined, freedom exists when our actions flow from our own desires and reasoning, not from external compulsion. The debate touches science too. Neuroscience has suggested that the brain may decide before we become conscious of it. Yet others argue that consciousness still plays a role. Free will remains a mystery, but one that shapes how we see ourselves as moral agents. Justice. What is fairness? Justice is one of philosophy's most enduring concerns. From ancient thinkers like Plato to modern debates about law and rights, the question remains, what does it mean to be fair? Plato described justice as harmony, each part of society and the soul performing its proper role. Centuries later, Aristotle tied justice to proportionality, giving each person their due. In modern thought, the question often revolves around equality versus merit. Should fairness mean everyone gets the same, or that people receive according to their contribution? John Rawls offered a powerful modern answer. In his theory of justice, he asked us to imagine choosing social rules from behind a veil of ignorance, where we don't know our place in society. From that perspective, most would favor systems that protect the vulnerable, since we might end up among them. Rawls argued this leads to principles of fairness based on liberty and equality of opportunity. Other thinkers challenge this. Libertarians emphasize individual rights and freedom of choice, while utilitarians see justice as maximizing overall well-being. Justice is not a simple formula. It is a balancing act between freedom and equality, merit and need, individual rights and the common good. Punishment, retribution, or rehabilitation. Why do we punish those who break the rules of society? The answer reveals deep philosophical divisions. One approach is retribution. This is the idea that wrongdoers deserve to suffer in proportion to the harm they caused. Rooted in ancient codes like an eye for an eye, retributivism treats punishment as moral payback, not merely to prevent future crime, but because justice demands it. Immanuel Kant defended this view, arguing that to respect human dignity, we must hold people accountable for their free choices, even if punishing them serves no practical purpose. On the other side is rehabilitation. Here, the aim is not vengeance, but transformation. The offender is seen less as a permanent criminal and more as a person who can be guided back into society. Education, therapy, and restorative justice practices emphasize healing, not just for the offender, but for victims and communities as well. Between these poles lie other justifications: deterrence, which seeks to discourage crime by making punishment an example, and incapacitation, which protects society by removing dangerous individuals. The debate raises a profound question. Should justice look backward, repaying wrongs, or forward, aiming to repair lives and build a safer future? The Trolley Problem. Dilemmas in ethics. Imagine this scenario. A runaway trolley speeds down a track toward 5 workers. You stand by a lever that could divert the trolley onto another track, but there, a single worker would be killed. Do you pull the lever? This puzzle, first introduced by philosopher Philippa Foot and expanded by Judith Jarvis Thomson, exposes the tension between ethical theories. A consequentialist might say yes, better 1 life lost than 5. But a deontologist might object. Deliberately causing harm, even to save others, is morally forbidden. The dilemma deepens with variations. What if, instead of a lever, you must push a large man onto the tracks to stop the trolley? Many people hesitate here. even though the math is the same. 1 life for 5. This reveals how our moral intuitions shift depending on our direct involvement. The trolley problem is not just a thought game. It underlies real-world decisions, from medical triage to self-driving car programming. Should machines or humans be allowed to weigh lives in numbers? At its core, the trolley problem reminds us that morality is not only about logic, but about human feelings, duties, and the principles we are willing to stand by when choices are most difficult. Animal ethics, our duty to non-humans. For much of history, philosophy treated animals as secondary beings, useful, but morally unimportant. Aristotle saw them as existing for human benefit, while Descartes went so far as to call them automata, mere machines without true feeling. But modern philosophy challenges this view. Thinkers like Jeremy Bentham asked a crucial question. The question is not, can they reason? Nor can they talk, but can they suffer? If animals feel pain and experience well-being, then their interests deserve moral consideration. This insight laid the groundwork for animal rights and welfare movements. Peter Singer, in his influential work Animal Liberation, argued that dismissing animal suffering is a form of speciesism, an unjust prejudice, no less problematic than racism or sexism. If all suffering counts equally, then using animals for food, experimentation, or entertainment raises deep ethical questions. Others, like Tom Regan, take an even stronger stance, claiming animals have inherent rights, not just interests. Meanwhile, traditional views still see humans as uniquely responsible stewards of creation. The debate forces us to ask, do we have the right to treat animals as means to our ends? Or must we expand the circle of moral concern to include all sentient beings? Knowledge and truth. Epistemology. How we know what we know. Epistemology is the branch of philosophy dedicated to understanding knowledge itself. It asks profound questions. What is knowledge? How do we acquire it? How can we distinguish true belief from mere opinion? Philosophers have long debated the sources and limits of knowledge. Plato, for instance, suggested that learning is a process of recollection, revealing truths the soul already knows. Later thinkers, like Descartes, approached knowledge with radical doubt, questioning everything that could possibly be doubted in search of certainty, famously concluding, "I think, therefore I am." Epistemology also explores the distinction between belief, truth, and justification. To know something, it is generally thought, we must believe it, it must be true, and we must have good reasons for believing it. This seemingly simple structure hides deep complexities. How do we justify our reasoning without circularity? Can human perception be trusted? The study of epistemology is more than abstract. It underpins science, education, law, and daily life. By examining how we know, we learn to question assumptions, weigh evidence carefully, and recognize the difference between conviction and understanding. Ultimately, epistemology invites us to explore not just what we know, but how knowledge shapes our very view of reality. Rationalism. Knowledge from reason. Rationalism is the philosophical view that reason is the primary source of knowledge, often independent of sensory experience. Thinkers like René Descartes, Baruch Spinoza, and Gottfried Leibniz argued that certain truths, especially in mathematics, logic, and metaphysics, can be known through careful reasoning alone. Descartes exemplified rationalist thinking. By doubting everything he could possibly doubt, he sought a foundation that reason could secure. The result, I think, therefore I am, demonstrated that while the senses can deceive, the mind's reasoning is a reliable path to knowledge. Spinoza went further, using logical deduction to argue that the universe follows necessary principles, revealing truths about God, nature, and existence. Rationalism does not reject experience entirely. Rather, it emphasizes that reason can reach knowledge beyond the limits of perception. For example, we can know that 2 + 2 = 4 without counting physical objects, or understand that certain moral principles are necessary rather than contingent. This approach teaches us the power of logical thought. By reflecting, deducing, and reasoning carefully, rationalists show that the mind is capable of grasping truths that extend beyond what our eyes can see, shaping both science and philosophy for centuries. Empiricism, knowledge from experience. Empiricism is the philosophical approach that asserts knowledge comes primarily from experience and observation. Where rationalists look to reason and deduction, empiricists like John Locke, George Berkeley, and David Hume emphasize the senses as the foundation of understanding. Locke famously described the mind at birth as a tabula rasa, or blank slate, upon which experience writes. All ideas, beliefs, and knowledge, he argued, are shaped by what we perceive, touch, see, and hear. Hume went further, analyzing causation, habit, and expectation. He questioned whether we can truly know that one event causes another, observing instead that we infer patterns from repeated experience. Empiricism underpins modern science. Experiments, observation, and measurement are all built on the principle that reality reveals itself to those who look carefully. Yet empiricism faces limits. The senses can deceive, memories can fail, and perception is filtered by our minds. Studying empiricism reminds us to stay grounded in evidence while cultivating critical thinking. Knowledge is not merely a product of abstract reasoning, it is an engagement with the world. The mind grows by exploring, observing, and reflecting, bridging experience and understanding. Intuition, knowledge beyond reason and experience. Intuition is a fascinating dimension of human knowledge. Unlike rationalism, which relies on reason, or empiricism, which relies on sensory experience, intuition suggests that we can know something directly, without conscious reasoning or observation. It is the immediate insight that arises in moments of clarity, creativity, or moral judgment. Philosophers such as Henri Bergson and G.E. Moore explored intuition as a legitimate way to access truths that reason alone might miss. For instance, we might intuitively grasp ethical principles, aesthetic beauty, or the unity of complex concepts without methodical deduction. Intuition allows us to perceive patterns, make judgments, and sense possibilities that lie beyond what can be measured or fully articulated. Intuition does not replace reason or evidence, but it complements them. Scientific discoveries often begin with a hunch or intuitive insight, later confirmed through experimentation. Similarly, ethical decisions sometimes rely on an immediate sense of right and wrong, informed by experience, empathy, and reflection. By recognizing the role of intuition, philosophy expands the ways we approach knowledge. It encourages us to cultivate awareness, reflection, and sensitivity, trusting that some truths are grasped not step by step, but in a sudden, illuminating perception. Scientific Method, Philosophy in Science. the scientific method is more than a set of laboratory procedures. It is a philosophical framework for discovering knowledge about the world. Rooted in the ideas of Francis Bacon, Galileo, and later philosophers of science, it emphasizes observation, hypothesis, experimentation, and the systematic testing of ideas. The method begins with curiosity and questioning. We notice phenomena, ask why they occur, and propose tentative explanations, hypotheses. These hypotheses are then tested through carefully designed experiments, allowing results to confirm, refine, or refute our ideas. Observations are recorded objectively, and findings are shared, so knowledge becomes cumulative, transparent, and verifiable. Philosophically, the scientific method embodies both empiricism and rationalism. Experience provides data. Reason organizes it into patterns and theories. Karl Popper later highlighted falsifiability, that scientific claims must be testable and open to being proven wrong, ensuring knowledge progresses, not stagnates. The scientific method reminds us that truth is pursued not through certainty or authority alone, but through disciplined inquiry, evidence, and critical reflection. By integrating philosophy and science, it demonstrates how structured thought and careful observation allow humans to uncover the workings of the universe, expanding knowledge while remaining humble before the unknown. Relativism of truth. Is truth subjective? Relativism of truth challenges the idea that truth is absolute or universal. Instead, it suggests that what we consider true depends on cultural, social, or individual perspectives. In other words, truth is not fixed, but shaped by context, language, and human interpretation. Philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche and later postmodern thinkers emphasized that knowledge is intertwined with power, perspective, and experience. For example, a statement about morality, history, or social norms may be considered true in one society and questioned in another. Truth, in this view, is not a static fact waiting to be discovered, but a dynamic construct negotiated among individuals and communities. Relativism encourages humility and tolerance. Recognizing that our viewpoint is not the only one can help prevent dogmatism and promote dialogue across cultures and disciplines. Yet it also raises challenges. If all truths are relative, can we meaningfully criticize harmful practices or claim objective knowledge in science, ethics, or law? The philosophical task is to balance relativism with reasoned judgment. While context and perspective shape our understanding, thoughtful reflection and dialogue allow us to navigate competing truths. Relativism reminds us that truth is both a mirror of reality and a reflection of human perception. Coherence Theories. Truth as consistency. Coherence theories of truth propose that a statement is true if it fits logically and consistently within a larger system of beliefs. Unlike correspondence theories, which compare statements to external reality, coherence focuses on the internal harmony of ideas. If a belief aligns with other established beliefs and forms a consistent whole, it is considered true. Philosophers like Hegel and later thinkers in epistemology emphasized this approach. Imagine a vast web of knowledge. Each belief supports others, forming a coherent structure. If one element contradicts the rest, it is called into question. For example, in mathematics or ethics, a principle may be judged true if it integrates logically with the entire system of accepted truths. Coherence theories highlight the interconnectedness of knowledge. Truth is not isolated. It emerges from the relationship between ideas. This perspective encourages careful reflection, dialogue, and examination of assumptions, ensuring that our beliefs do not conflict with each other. However, critics point out that coherence alone cannot guarantee correspondence with the external world. A perfectly consistent set of beliefs could still be entirely imaginary. Yet the theory remains valuable, reminding us that understanding often depends on the network of ideas we inhabit, and that harmony among beliefs is a crucial guide in the pursuit of truth. Correspondence Theories. Truth as reality matching. The correspondence theory of truth is one of the oldest and most intuitive ideas in philosophy. It asserts that a statement is true if it accurately reflects or corresponds to reality. In other words, truth is a matter of alignment between belief and the world itself. Aristotle expressed this idea centuries ago. To say of what is that it is not, or of what is not that it is false, while to say of what is that it is, and of what is not that it is not, is true. In this framework, statements about the world, the sky is blue, or water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, are judged by how well they match observable facts. The correspondence theory underpins modern science and everyday reasoning. We test hypotheses, compare ideas with evidence, and revise beliefs when reality does not match our expectations. Truth is external and objective, independent of opinion or culture. Yet the theory also raises questions. How do we access reality without interpretation? Are all truths equally observable? Philosophers debate whether correspondence is literal, approximate, or mediated by language and perception. Despite challenges, correspondence theory reminds us that knowledge is grounded in reality. Truth is not merely a belief or a coherent idea. It is a faithful reflection of the world as it exists beyond us. Pragmatic Truth. Truth as usefulness. Pragmatic theories of truth shift the focus from abstract correspondence or logical coherence to practical consequences. For pragmatists like Charles Sanders Peirce, William James, and John Dewey, a belief is true if it works, if it produces reliable results and helps us navigate the world effectively. Truth, in this view, is not merely a mirror of reality or a logical structure, but a tool. A scientific theory is true if it successfully predicts phenomena. A moral principle is true if it leads to human flourishing. Truth becomes functional, judged by the success of its application. Pragmatism emphasizes flexibility and experimentation. If a belief consistently leads to desired outcomes, it is confirmed as a useful truth. If it fails, it must be revised or discarded. This approach encourages adaptability, learning, and continual inquiry, rather than clinging rigidly to abstract notions of truth. Critics argue that pragmatism risks relativism. Does something work simply because it produces comfort or advantage? Pragmatists respond that effectiveness must be measured in terms of objective consequences, not mere preference. Ultimately, pragmatic truth reminds us that philosophy isn't only about knowing, but about acting wisely. Knowledge is validated by life itself, and truth is inseparable from the ways it helps us understand, predict, and engage with the world. Simulation hypothesis. Are we real? The simulation hypothesis raises one of philosophy's most provocative questions. What if our reality is not the ultimate reality at all, but a sophisticated simulation? Popularized by thinkers like Nick Bostrom, It explores the possibility that advanced civilizations might create simulated worlds indistinguishable from base reality. This idea challenges our intuitions about existence, knowledge, and perception. If we inhabit a simulation, what we experience as real, the sky, the ground, even our own thoughts, could be the product of computational processes. Yet even if this were true, our experiences retain meaning. Happiness, suffering, learning, and relationships would still matter to us as conscious beings. Philosophically, the simulation hypothesis intersects with questions of epistemology and metaphysics. How could we know the difference between a simulated world and true reality? Are there limits to what reason, observation, or science can uncover? In confronting these questions, we revisit fundamental concerns: the nature of consciousness, the reliability of perception, and the possibility of certainty. Whether or not we live in a simulation, the hypothesis is valuable. It encourages critical reflection on reality itself, urging us to examine assumptions, embrace curiosity, and consider how knowledge, experience, and reasoning shape the world we inhabit. Philosophy, at its heart, is the art of asking questions. Each theme we've explored today has shown us not only how humans have sought understanding, but also how those ideas continue to shape our world today. What unites all of philosophy is not agreement, but inquiry. From Plato to Nietzsche, Confucius to Kant, Aristotle to modern thinkers, the pursuit has always been the same: to push the boundaries of what we know, to challenge the assumptions we live by, and to search for meaning in a universe that does not hand out easy answers. Philosophy does not end in certainty. It ends in perspective. It sharpens our ability to reason, deepens our empathy, and gives us tools to navigate ambiguity with wisdom. It reminds us that to be human is to wonder, to question, and to never stop learning. As we close this video, remember, philosophy is not just found in books or classrooms. It's in your choices, your values, and the way you see the world. The questions are endless, but so is the journey.